Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Honestly, if you are a rugby fan,
Yeah.
I don't think you've been able to look away from the news feeds for, the last 48 hours?
Oh, at least.
We are living through one of the most chaotic, fascinating, and, frankly, historically significant weeks in New Zealand rugby history.
It really is a watershed moment. We're sitting here in January 2026, and the headline everyone is still processing, the one that feels like it shifted the tectonic plates of the sport,
Yeah.
is that Scott Robertson has been sacked as the All Blacks head coach. The era that was promised to be revolutionary it's ended abruptly, and Messi doesn't even begin to cover it.
It's absolutely huge. It feels like the end of a dynasty that never quite got started. But today, our mission isn't just to look at the sacking itself.
No.
We are looking at a specific, almost cinematic twist that has emerged in the aftermath. It involves a phone call, a desperate late attempt to save a coaching tenure, and a sliding doors moment that has left South Africa smiling and New Zealand scratching its head.
That's right. We're digging into the revelation from Tony Brown, currently the attack coach for the Springboks, that sheds a completely new light on the final months of Robertson's era. It's a story about timing, loyalty, and the brutal reality of professional coaching.
It is the ultimate case of what could have been. We're going to look at how New Zealand's loss became South Africa's gain and why a desperate move behind the scenes failed to pay off. But before we unravel this web, I have to tell you, if you want to stay on top of these rapidly unfolding narratives, you need to subscribe to Rugby Obsession right now. Hit that button. The news is moving so fast, and we're going to keep you covered.
Absolutely. The landscape is changing daily, so you'll want to be locked in.
Okay, let's unpack this. The central character in our deep dive today, aside from the recently departed Scott Robertson, is Tony Brown.
All right.
Now, most listeners know the name, but for context, Brown is currently sitting pretty as the attack coach for the Springboks.
And doing a phenomenal job by all accounts. He was recruited by Rassie Erasmus after the 2023 World Cup. The consensus is that his impact on the men in green and gold has been, overwhelmingly positive.
In what way?
He's evolved their game from that traditional physical battering ram style into something with a lot more nuance and width.
Exactly. So you have this Kiwi rugby brain operating at the heart of the Springboks setup. But here is the news that dropped like a bomb. Tony Brown gave an interview to News Talk ZB in the Post, and he revealed something incredible. Late last year, so late 2025, Scott Robertson approached him.
This is the key detail. Robertson, while still the All Blacks head coach, reached out to Brown with an offer to join his coaching staff.
I'm going to pause on that for a second because the optics are wild. Imagine that phone call. The All Blacks head coach calling the Springboks assistant coach.
His biggest rival's right-hand man, essentially.
Asking him to switch sides mid-cycle. It sounds like something out of a spy novel.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it? What's fascinating here is the timing. Brown connects this approach to the period when Jason Holland's departure from the All Blacks coaching team was confirmed.
Ah, okay.
It suggests that Robertson knew the walls were closing in.
So he wasn't just looking for a replacement. He was looking for a savior.
Precisely. He was looking for a spark, something to shake up his team's attack and perhaps save his job. Robertson is a smart guy. He knows when the product on the field is stale.
Right.
Reaching out to Brown was an admission that the current plan wasn't working.
It feels like a Hail Mary. Trying to bring in a tactical genius like Brown at the 11th hour, it screams desperation.
It does signal desperation, and Brown's reaction to the whole situation really underscores that. He turned Robertson down, obviously, but his comments on the current state of affairs are telling.
What did he say?
He called the timing of Robertson's sacking pretty bizarre and noted that there seems to be, in his words, no sort of plan going forward.
No sort of plan going forward. Wow, that is a stinging critique coming from a guy who knows the game inside out. Usually, coaches are very diplomatic, very PR safe.
Oh, completely.
That sounds like someone who is genuinely baffled by the administration.
It's a critique of the system. Brown is looking at New Zealand rugby from the outside now, from the comfort of a very stable South African system, and he's seeing chaos.
But let's talk about the rejection. Why did he say no? I mean, Tony Brown is a proud Kiwi. He's an icon of Highlanders rugby. Surely the allure of fixing the All Blacks is irresistible.
You would think so, and historically that black jersey is the ultimate magnet. But this is where integrity and, contracts come into play. Brown was very clear.
Okay.
He told Robertson he does not have an out clause in his contract with SA Rugby.
Let's dig into that technicality for a moment. An out clause, just to clarify for everyone, that's usually a stipulation in a contract that says, I commit to this club or country unless my home nation calls.
Yeah. Exactly. It's very common in rugby, specifically for New Zealand coaches abroad. A lot of Kiwi coaches working in Europe or Japan have a specific clause written in that says if the All Blacks come knocking, they can leave immediately without penalty. It's almost a standard expectation.
Right.
But Brown doesn't have that.
That's interesting. Why wouldn't he have that?
Because he committed fully. He signed up for 4 years with the Springboks, taking him through to the 2027 World Cup, and he intends to, quote, honor that commitment. He wasn't keeping 1 foot out the door.
I love that word, honor. In a world where contracts often feel like loose guidelines or leverage for the next negotiation, Brown is being incredibly old school. He gave his word to Rassie Erasmus in South Africa.
And that stability stands in such stark contrast to the instability we are seeing in New Zealand right now. Brown is effectively saying, I made a promise and I'm sticking to it, even when his dream job comes knocking.
It's amazing.
It also tells you he respects the environment Rassie has built. You don't leave a winning, happy team for a chaotic one unless you're very unhappy or, well, very ambitious in a selfish way. And Brown appears to be neither.
It really is ironic. But to fully understand the frustration that Brown is feeling, and he admits he is frustrated, we have to go back in time. We have to rewind 2 years to the post-2023 World Cup era. This is where the real sliding doors moment happened.
Yes, this is the what-if scenario that will haunt New Zealand fans. The selection process for the All Blacks head coach back then was essentially a 2-horse race.
Okay.
It was Team Robertson versus Team Jamie Joseph.
Right. And this is a crucial distinction in how rugby coaching works. It's not like other sports where you just hire a manager. They hire a whole ticket. Can you explain exactly what that implies?
Sure. A ticket is essentially a prepackaged coaching unit. When a head coach applies for the top job, they don't just present their own CV. They present their entire proposed staff attack coach, defense coach, forwards coach.
Package.
The whole package. They say to the board, if you hire me, you get these 4 other guys, and we already know how to work together.
So Tony Brown wasn't applying for the job individually. He couldn't just slide his resume across the desk.
No. Tony Brown was a key part of Jamie Joseph's ticket. They had worked together at the Highlanders. They had an incredibly successful stint with Japan.
Oh, yeah, the 2019 World Cup.
Exactly. That lightning-fast attack was all Tony Brown. So they came as a package deal. On the other side, you had Robertson with his own team, Jason Holland, Leon McDonald, Scott Hansen, Jason Ryan.
So New Zealand Rugby had to make a binary choice. Pick ticket A or ticket B. And as we know, they chose Team Robertson.
They did. And that decision had a massive ripple effect. Because they chose Robertson's team, Tony Brown was left out in the cold. It wasn't that they didn't want him specifically, they just didn't want the head coach he was attached to.
And this is where it gets really interesting and, frankly, a bit heartbreaking for Brown.
Yeah.
He admitted in these recent interviews that back then, 2 years ago, he was a 100% yes.
That's the quote that sticks with me. He said he would have bitten someone's hand off for the role back then. He wanted it desperately.
He was ready to go.
He was ready to serve New Zealand rugby. But because he was attached to the Jamie Joseph ticket and NZR went the other way, he didn't get a look in. He actually expressed frustration that New Zealand Rugby didn't reach out to him individually at that time.
And that's the crux of it, isn't it? The flaw in the system.
It is. Brown felt stuck. The process was so rigid, Team A versus Team B, that there was no room for the board to say, okay, we want Scott Robertson as head coach, but honestly, Tony Brown is the best attack coach in the world, so we want him to run the offense.
That seems like a massive blind spot. In the corporate world, if you have 2 CEOs pitching, and the loser has a CFO who is a genius, you try to hire that CFO, right?
You absolutely do.
You don't just let that talent walk out the door because they came in with the other guy.
You curate the best talent. But New Zealand Rugby treated it as an all-or-nothing proposition. So Brown is sitting there, unemployed effectively, thinking, I'm here, I'm ready, I want to help, and the phone doesn't ring.
Well, the phone from New Zealand didn't ring. This leads to the great irony of this situation. New Zealand Rugby didn't want him 2 years ago when he was free and eager. But late last year, through Robertson, they desperately wanted him when he was unavailable and under contract.
It's the ultimate case of bad timing. And it highlights a potential flaw in that whole ticket system. You lose out on top talent because they back the wrong horse.
It definitely raises an important question about how coaching staffs are assembled. Do you pick a prepackaged unit to ensure cohesion? Or do you curate the best minds available and force them to collaborate?
That's the debate. New Zealand went with the package cohesion over individual brilliance, perhaps. And now, looking at the wreckage of the Robertson era where the attack never really clicked, you have to wonder if they regret not finding a way to integrate Brown earlier.
Right. And Robertson himself realized it, but way too late.
Why then? It was too late.
It's a massive what if. But let's talk about what actually happened when Brown was left stuck. He mentioned he was looking at going back to Japan, maybe a small opportunity in Argentina. He's kind of drifting. And then the phone rang. But it wasn't a +64 area code.
No, it was Rassie Erasmus.
This is a perfect time to remind you, if you are enjoying this deep dive into the politics and drama of rugby, please take a second to subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We're going to be tracking every development of the story, and you don't want to miss what comes next.
So Rassie Erasmus calls. Now, Brown had played under Erasmus at the Stormers years ago, so there was a pre-existing relationship there. He knew him as a coach.
Okay, so they had history.
They did. And Brown saw the writing on the wall. He saw a team that had just won back-to-back World Cups. He said he thought, wow, what an opportunity to learn from him. And that is such a key insight into Brown's mindset. He's not just a teacher, he's a student of the game. He saw a chance to go inside the machine of the world champions and see how they operate.
That curiosity is what makes him good. But it must have been a culture shock.
Oh, for sure.
The Springboks are famous for structure, physicality, the bomb squad. Brown is famous for chaos, innovation, running from everywhere.
That's exactly why Rassie wanted him. Rassie knew the box needed to evolve. He didn't want more of the same. He wanted a disruptive thinker. And clearly, it's been a good fit. Brown describes the move as having an overwhelmingly positive impact.
But now, with Razor gone, the rumor mill is in overdrive. It's inevitable.
It is. The natural connection people are making is simple math. If the All Blacks' job is open, maybe Jamie Joseph is the front runner again.
Right.
And if Jamie Joseph gets the job, surely he brings his right-hand man, Tony Brown, with him.
It makes logical sense on paper. Everyone loves a reunion. But Rassie Erasmus has been pretty active on social media shutting this down, hasn't he?
Rassie is never one to shy away from Twitter or X. He's dispelled the rumors, and Brown himself has been very firm in these interviews. He stated, "I've always just been going back to South Africa to finish my contract, and happily so." Happily
so. That's the dagger for All Blacks fans, I think. He's not being held hostage. He's enjoying it.
He is. But, and there is a small but, he did leave the door slightly ajar for the long term. He acknowledged he wants to coach the All Blacks in the future. He said, "It's definitely something I want to do."
Just not right now.
Not right now. The timing is wrong.
Timing.
Yeah.
It's always about timing in sports. You can have the right person at the wrong time, and it just never happens.
It is. And if we zoom out a bit, this situation tells us a lot about the broader context of New Zealand rugby right now. The sources we're looking at mention some heavy headlines surrounding the sacking. It's not just about one guy losing his job. It feels systemic.
Yeah, let's touch on that. There's this gagged theory floating around regarding Robertson's silence since the sacking.
Yes, reports suggest his first response has been minimal, fueling speculation that he's been legally gagged or restricted from speaking freely. When a coach of that magnitude leaves, usually there's a press conference, a statement, some closure.
Right.
The silence just adds to this atmosphere of chaos and, well, lack of transparency. It creates a vacuum where rumors thrive.
It feels messy.
Yeah.
Like a bad divorce where the lawyers are doing all the talking. And then there's that other headline about NZR admitting Super Rugby isn't producing coaches fit for the international game.
That is a damning admission. That is the organization effectively telling its fans, our domestic product is broken. If the competition that feeds the All Black Super Rugby isn't preparing coaches for the pressure and tactical depth of Test Rugby, then the whole supply chain is compromised.
And when you contrast that internal crisis, broken systems, gag orders, panic firings, with the stability Tony Brown has found in South Africa, well, it explains why he's not rushing back.
It really does. Why jump from a winning stable ship into a burning building, even if it is your home? South Africa has a clear plan, a contracted staff, and recent success. New Zealand is currently searching for its identity.
It's a fascinating dilemma, and I want to throw this out to you, the listener. What do you think? Put yourself in Tony Brown's shoes. Do you respect him for honoring his contract with the Springboks over helping his home nation in a time of crisis? Or do you think national duty should come first, and he should have tried to find a way out to join the All Blacks? Let us know in the comments. I'm really curious where people stand on the contract versus country debate.
It's a tough one. Emotional loyalty versus professional ethics. But looking at the facts, Brown seems to have a very clear code. He gave his word.
He did, and you have to respect that. So let's recap the main takeaways here because there are a lot of moving parts.
The bottom line is this. Tony Brown is staying with South Africa. He is honoring his word to Rassie Erasmus and SA Rugby. This is despite a desperate, late attempt by Scott Robertson last year to bring him home.
To try and save the All Blacks coaching ticket. Yeah. New Zealand's loss, caused by a rigid selection process 2 years ago that excluded him, remains South Africa's gain for the 2027 cycle.
They have the intellectual property, they have the stability, and they have the coach who would have bitten someone's hand off to help the All Blacks, now plotting their downfall. It really emphasizes how critical those administrative decisions are.
Absolutely.
Choosing a coaching team isn't just about the next season, it locks you into a path. New Zealand chose a path that excluded Brown, and now they can't simply whistle and have him come running back just because things went wrong.
That's a harsh lesson. I won't leave you with this final thought. Think about the concept of a single phone call. 2 years ago, if New Zealand Rugby had picked up the phone and called Tony Brown individually, ignoring the ticket politics, we might be looking at a completely different rugby landscape today.
And conversely, if Rassie Erasmus hadn't made that phone call when Brown was feeling stuck, Brown might be coaching a club in Japan right now, and the Springboks attack might look very different.
One phone call. That's all it took to change the trajectory of two major rugby nations. It's wild to think about.
It is. And as we watch the All Blacks try to rebuild from this sacking, that missed opportunity with Brown is going to loom large.
Absolutely. Look, this story isn't over. The coaching carousel is still spinning, and we will be here to break down whatever happens next. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We are committed to bringing you these deep dives that go beyond the headlines and get into the real story.
Thanks for joining us. It's been a fascinating one to unravel.
It certainly has. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.